What would you do if someone handed you $500,000 today? Would you quit your job, buy your dream home, retire early, or would you suddenly realize it doesn't actually go as far as you imagined? Not too long ago, having $500,000 sounded like the finish line. It was the kind of number people associated with success, security, maybe even wealth. But in Singapore today, something has quietly changed. The number hasn't become smaller, yet somehow it feels like it buys a lot less than it used to. So what happened? Did Singapore become more expensive? Have our expectations changed? Or has the definition of being rich quietly shifted without most of us noticing? Because here's the surprising part. You can have $500,000 in the bank and still worry about housing, retirement, healthcare, and whether your money will actually last. At the same time, someone else with a fraction of that amount might feel completely financially secure. That sounds like a contradiction, but by the end of this video, it'll make perfect sense. Picture two friends meeting at a hawker center after work. One has just sold an investment and now has $500,000 sitting in their account. The other has far less cash, but owns a fully paid HDB flat, contributes consistently to investments every month, and has no debt. Who do you think sleeps better at night? Most people would immediately point to the bigger bank balance. More money should mean more freedom, right? But money doesn't exist in isolation. It only matters in relation to the life you're trying to build. Think about everyday life in Singapore. You tap your card at the MRT, grab a kopi before work, pay your monthly bills, think about upgrading your home, maybe save for your children's education, and wonder whether you'll ever retire comfortably. Each decision quietly chips away at what once seemed like an enormous amount of money. This isn't because people are suddenly bad at managing money. It's because Singapore has evolved. The city has become wealthier. Salaries have grown over the years. Homes have appreciated in value. Investment opportunities are more accessible than ever before. At the same time, the cost of building what many people consider a comfortable life has also climbed. That changes how we perceive wealth. Imagine standing on an escalator that's moving upward every year. You might be climbing steadily, but if the escalator itself keeps rising, staying in the same place takes more effort than before. That's what many Singaporeans experience today. The target keeps moving. Years ago, reaching $500,000 might have felt like a finish line. Today, for many people, it feels more like reaching a checkpoint. And that psychological shift affects almost everything. You work harder, earn more, save more, yet the feeling of finally making it seems permanently just around the corner. But here's where things become interesting. The real reason $500,000 no longer feels rich isn't simply because prices have gone up. It's because wealth isn't measured by a number. It's measured by what that number allows you to do. A balance of $500,000 means something completely different to a 28-year-old renting a room, a couple buying their first home, a family raising 2 children, or a 60-year-old preparing for retirement. The same amount of money, 4 completely different realities. That's why chasing a number without understanding what it needs to accomplish can leave people feeling disappointed even after reaching a goal they once dreamed about. So instead of asking whether $500,000 is a lot of money, there's a better question to ask. What kind of life can $500,000 actually support in Singapore today? The answer is far more surprising than most people expect.
Let's start with one of the biggest reasons: housing. For most Singaporeans, a home isn't just a place to live. It's also the largest financial decision they'll ever make. Imagine you've managed to build up $500,000 in savings. It sounds incredible, but the moment you begin thinking about upgrading your lifestyle, that number starts getting assigned to different goals: a down payment, renovation costs, emergency savings, future mortgage payments. Suddenly, that $500,000 isn't one giant pile of wealth anymore. It's a collection of future responsibilities. It's like looking at a pizza before dinner. At first, it feels like there's plenty for everyone. Then you start dividing it into slices: one for housing, one for retirement, one for emergencies, one for your children's education, one for healthcare. Before long, there isn't much left. The number hasn't changed. Your obligations have. Now think beyond housing. If you're 35 years old and you've accumulated $500,000, congratulations. That's an achievement very few people reach. But ask yourself one question. How many more decades does that money need to support? If you hope to retire around 65 and live another 25 or 30 years after that, your money isn't supporting today's lifestyle, it's supporting tomorrow's lifestyle too. And tomorrow is becoming more expensive every year. This is where inflation quietly changes everything. Think of inflation like termites inside a wooden house. You don't notice the damage after one day or even 1 year, but over decades, the structure becomes weaker unless you're constantly repairing it. Money works the same way. If your savings aren't growing faster than rising costs, they're quietly losing purchasing power. That's why simply saving isn't enough anymore. Your money needs a job. It needs to grow while you sleep. Instead of asking, how much money do I have? Wealthy people ask, how hard is my money working? That small shift in thinking changes everything. Now let's look at another reason $500,000 doesn't automatically create the feeling of being rich. Lifestyle inflation. Picture a fresh graduate earning $3,500 a month. A simple meal feels normal. Public transport feels convenient. Fast forward 10 years, now they're earning twice as much. The apartment is nicer. Weekend dinners become more expensive. Vacations become expectations instead of rewards. Nothing seems extravagant on its own, but together, the definition of normal has quietly changed. That's why two people earning the same salary can feel completely different about money. One feels financially free, the other constantly feels behind, not because of income, because of lifestyle. Being rich isn't only about how much you earn, it's about the gap between what you have and what you need to feel satisfied. The smaller that gap becomes, the wealthier life often feels. But there's another force quietly changing how Singaporeans think about money. Comparison. You open social media and see someone your age collecting the keys to a condominium. A colleague talks about buying a second investment property. Someone else celebrates reaching a 7-figure portfolio before turning 40. None of these moments are directed at you, yet they can completely change how you feel about your own progress. Yesterday, $500,000 felt like a remarkable achievement. Today, it suddenly feels ordinary. The money hasn't changed, only your reference point has. There will always be someone earning more, someone investing more, someone retiring earlier. If your definition of being rich depends on keeping up with everyone else, the finish line keeps moving further away, and that's a race nobody ever truly wins. So, does this mean $500,000 isn't a meaningful milestone? Not at all. Reaching $500,000 is still an extraordinary accomplishment. It represents years of disciplined saving, consistent investing, and countless choices to think about tomorrow instead of only today. The mistake isn't reaching $500,000. The mistake is expecting that number alone to create lasting financial peace. Real wealth is built on flexibility. It's knowing an unexpected expense won't throw your life into chaos. It's having investments that continue working even while you're asleep. It's having enough freedom to make decisions based on what matters to you instead of what your monthly bills demand. That's the kind of wealth people rarely show online, and yet it's the kind that matters most. So maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking, is $500,000 enough to feel rich? Maybe we should ask, what kind of life am I trying to build, and is my money helping me get there? Because the goal isn't to impress strangers. The goal is to create a life where money gives you choices. Choices to spend time with family. Choices to handle life's surprises without constant stress. Choices to look toward the future with confidence instead of fear. Many people spend years chasing bigger numbers without ever defining what enough actually means to them. And without that definition, no amount of money will ever feel sufficient. The real measure of wealth isn't the number sitting in your account. It's whether your money is quietly building the life you truly want. Because financial freedom isn't about reaching someone else's number. It's about reaching your own version of enough. And once you know what enough looks like, you'll stop chasing wealth and start enjoying it.